Okay, so today we're diving into some pretty concerning stuff coming out of the Spanish healthcare system.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're looking at reports from Pilar Enjamio with DTPMedia and DTPMedia.
Right. Okay. News is real-time verified information services.
Exactly. And we're coming to you right from their editorial studios here on Calle Gran Vía 84 in Madrid.
That's right.
And what's really got our attention is this idea that some hospitals might be, well, not healing patients, but actually making them sicker.
It's a disturbing thought, right? I mean,
it is.
Instead of getting better, you're potentially getting worse.
And that's what we need to dig into.
Exactly.
So the reports in Pilar Enjamio focus on two main areas.
Okay.
First, there's the experience of a patient at a private hospital in Compostela.
Right.
And then there are these worrying practices that were observed in a public hospital in the same city.
Particularly with elderly patients.
Yes, and that's a big red flag right there.
Absolutely.
So our goal today is to really break down these reports.
Give people all the detail.
And try to understand what they could mean.
And remember, DTPnews and DTPMedia really stress that they use verified, real-time info.
Right, so we're dealing with information that's meant to be accurate.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the private hospital case.
Okay.
The patient was admitted for cellulitis.
A skin infection.
Yeah, plus fluid retention and edema, which is swelling in the legs.
Right, common symptoms.
And initially, they used diuretics.
Medication to help remove excess fluid.
Yeah, and it seems like that was working at first.
Pretty standard treatment in these cases.
But then things take a strange turn.
Okay.
When the patient was moved to a different ward, they stopped the diuretics. And they gave the patient asthma nebulization, even though they didn't need it.
Really?
And get this, the patient was allergic to it.
Wow, that's a big problem.
Huge red flag, right?
Giving someone medication they're allergic to is a major medical error.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder about safety checks, communication.
All of that.
Definitely.
So, according to the report, this led to dyspnea.
Shortness of breath.
Yeah, and to treat that, they gave the patient Irbicin.
Which is?
It's a corticosteroid.
Okay.
And they gave it to her twice a day for a whole week.
Huh.
Now, here's the thing about corticosteroids like Irbicin.
Go on.
They can actually cause fluid retention and high blood sugar.
The very issues the patient was dealing with in the first place.
Or at risk of developing.
It seems counterproductive, doesn't it?
Totally.
Treating a symptom by potentially making the original conditions worse.
And that's what happened.
The edema, the swelling got worse.
Exactly.
What was the logic behind that treatment change?
No idea, but it gets even more confusing.
Okay.
Eventually, they did put her back on diuretics.
Yep.
They gave her 4 ampoules all at once at breakfast.
Instead of spacing them out.
Right, and the patient's companion was like, whoa, hold on.
I can imagine.
I mean, a sudden large dose of diuretic can cause problems.
Absolutely, especially for older adults.
Like a rapid drop in blood pressure.
Electrolyte imbalances, too.
So the companion was right to be concerned.
Definitely brings up the whole issue of informed consent.
Making sure the patient understands the treatment and has a say.
Exactly, a big deal.
And then it gets even worse.
Oh, no.
The physician shows up with 2 nurses, essentially saying, take the treatment or leave.
Wow, putting the pressure on.
The article calls it harassment.
I mean, an elderly patient, not in good shape, being pressured like that?
Not right at all.
So much for informed consent.
But to top it off, when she was discharged...
What happened?
They changed the reason for admission to dyspnea, the shortness of breath that was caused by the treatment she got in the hospital.
Oh, wow, that's...
And someone even said to her, you're leaving worse than you came in.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
Right. I mean, falsifying medical records is a big deal.
Huge.
It hides potential errors.
It could impact her future care.
And then that dismissive comment...
shows a real lack of empathy.
The author even mentioned the absence of the word that heals.
Yeah, like there was no compassionate communication at all.
Exactly.
You know, there's a ton of research in psychology about how important that patient-physician relationship is.
Right, feeling heard, understood.
It's key for well-being and treatment outcomes.
So then the article shifts to the public healthcare system.
In Compostela.
Yes, the Clínico Universitario and the Provincial de Conso hospitals.
Okay.
And the author brings up a really serious concern about a transfer policy for elderly patients.
What kind of policy?
It's described as resembling, this is a strong phrase, hidden euthanasia.
That's a heavy accusation.
It is.
What exactly does it entail?
They claim that when elderly patients are transferred to Medicina Interna at Provincial de Conso,
okay,
their heart and blood pressure medications are stopped immediately.
Whoa, that's
dangerous.
Incredibly dangerous.
Especially for older people with existing conditions.
Could have severe, even fatal consequences.
And if family members object to this...
what happens then?
They're threatened with Puerta y a la calle.
Which means,
basically, out you go, no more care.
like they're being forced to choose between bad options.
Exactly, and voluntary discharge is presented as the better one.
But it's not really a choice, is it?
Not when you're being pressured like that.
And some families regret not doing it soon.
It's heartbreaking.
It really is.
So the article then goes back to the private hospital case.
Okay, the same patient.
Yes, she was readmitted.
Yeah.
The same issues, plus anemia this time.
Lack of red blood cells.
Right, and they gave her 2 blood transfusions.
To help with the hemoglobin levels.
Yeah, and they used diuretics again, which reduced the fluid, and they gave her iron for the anemia, and she actually gained 4 kilos.
So some positive steps there.
Seems like it, but then, another twist.
What happened?
They consulted with a head of hematology at another hospital. And they said that iron is contraindicated for patients with renal insufficiency.
Meaning?
It's not advisable.
Okay.
Because it can cause edema, the very fluid retention they were trying to manage.
Oh, wow. So they were basically making things worse again.
Exactly, but the original doctor wouldn't admit it was a mistake.
Seriously?
Called it a coincidence.
That's not very reassuring.
Not at all, and it erodes trust.
Big time.
So they stopped the iron, and she did lose some fluid.
Right.
But she also developed severe hypotension.
Low blood pressure.
Right, and get this, after she's discharged,
With less fluid.
they prescribed the same iron again.
The one that caused problems before.
The one that's supposedly contraindicated.
That's unbelievable.
It's mind-boggling.
But her medical history just disappeared.
And all of this amounted to almost 40 days in the hospital.
With questionable nutritional care.
The author does mention appreciating the sane staff and some dedicated professionals.
So there are good people in the system.
Absolutely, but the overall picture is pretty bleak.
Yeah, the author is clearly frustrated.
They say patient care can turn into patient neglect.
With the hospital's interests put first.
And that's a huge problem.
It is. It undermines trust.
Pilar Enjamio makes it clear they felt they had to speak out.
To bring these issues to light.
And that's what we've tried to do today.
Share this information, this verified real-time reporting from OKeiNews.
And now we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean for us?
For our trust in healthcare.
Can we truly give informed consent when the system seems so flawed?
Big questions, right?
Huge.
And think about the psychological impact on patients and families.
Going through these ordeals.
Feeling helpless, losing trust.
These specific cases are from Compostela, but they make you wonder.
About patient advocacy, transparency, accountability.
Everywhere, not just in Spain.
Right, it's a wake-up call.
It's a reminder to be vigilant, to ask questions, to stay informed.
Exactly, and that's what journalism is all about.
Shining a light on the tough stuff.
So we can all make informed decisions.
About our health and our lives.